Hey, what's going on, guys? It is your good friend Matt back again here today at the only place that we always can be, and that's Matt's Wrestling Collectibles right here on YouTube. Now, the title of the video is already giving it away. I can't even surprise you guys today, but obviously you must know with the title of this video, that means that we have hit our 300 subscribers mark. And of course, I am forever grateful for you guys, the continued support that I have gotten, and the fact that we have continued to build this together. From years ago, like I said, at one point having over 800 subscribers on YouTube and over 6,000 people on Facebook, and now we are finally over the 2,000 mark of members on our Facebook group page, which I will get to in a few. We have hit 300 subscribers here on YouTube, which is awesome, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. But I do have to ask you guys one thing before we get into the history of Matt's Wrestling Collectibles, and you know what that's going to be. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and of course, like this video. I know you're probably saying, but Matt, we haven't even watched the video yet, and of course, I know you haven't, but just trust me, you're going to like it. I promise. I promise you will like the video, but if you want to wait till the end, by all means, but if you could, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. Today, the history of Matt's Wrestling Collectibles finally is brought to you by none other than myself, the man who has been here from day one till day now, and trying to give you guys the most accurate and up-to-date story along the way. So without further ado, we are going to get into this. So let me give you a little intro, a little background. I know I've said it to so many people so many times, and some of you are probably sick and tired of hearing this. Others maybe haven't heard it yet, so let's give it to you for the first time here today. Back in 1998, I know some of you might be getting a little nervous there. 1998, we first started collecting then, myself, and I say we because it was kind of also my dad too. My dad got me into professional wrestling. He was watching it much to my curiosity at the time, and that's how I think I got so involved in it. You know, time spent with my dad, time spent watching wrestling, and that's really how I started with all of this. So it was about 98 when I got my first wrestling figures, and from then I just never looked back. At that time, I was coming off of the end of what was the Monday Night Wars of WCW versus WWF, and of course at one point, only there, you know, very soon after, within those first 4 years of me really being into wrestling, it was a lot of things that happened at once. You had WCW finally getting merged with WWF by the fact that Vince McMahon bought WCW. And I was watching some of my stars from WCW come over to WWF, but at the time, I didn't realize that all these people didn't work together. To me, as a kid, you know, only being 4 or 5 years old, I had that mind of this is real, and these guys all work together, but they're not friends. They don't like each other. They walk around like this every day. Of course, you know, obviously the young mind was a great thing back then. Sometimes you wish you could go back to it. But so between 98 and 2002, that 4-year span, you know, we watched, like I said, WCW kind of merge with WWF, being bought out by Vince McMahon. By 2002, the WWF became the WWE because, of course, they had their issues with the World Wildlife Fund or Foundation. And so I saw a lot quick, and I just enjoyed it so much, and collecting it and being so immersed in it was just something that I always enjoyed. And from that point, it was like I never looked back. And I collected wrestling figures from 1998 till about 2018. From 2018 to just about 2022, I just didn't have much of a passion anymore. I guess I kind of lost that drive to want to watch wrestling. And also too, I won't lie, around 2015 or 16, I really started to get more into boxing and UFC, and it just kind of wasn't that the real fight aspect that changed everything. It was more so, I think, just, you know, it was a much more real feeling to see two people talk back and forth to each other before a fight, and knowing that they're going out there to you know, really put an end to one another. It just had a different vibe, a different feeling. And I kind of put wrestling and WWE and collecting and everything kind of as a whole on the back burner. And slowly I wound up selling everything I had. So for a lot of you that knew me from way back when this all started, I had roughly almost 5,000 wrestling figures at one point, many of which were loose without packaging, but I had so many that were brand new in the box, you know, mint on card, as some would say. But I had just so many figures at one point. Like I said, I probably had about 4,600 to 4,700 wrestling figures. And a lot of people didn't realize just how crazy that can be when you walk into a room. But this is kind of the story of where it starts, of where I started to sell things, where things eventually left my possession, and as time continued to go on, I don't know, it was just something that just didn't have that drive in me anymore. But 2021, the end of 2021, you know, my grandmother passed away, and for some of you that are watching this, maybe some of you have met her personally, and that's awesome, and you've had such a great privilege, that I would say, to meet such an amazing woman. And when my grandmother passed away at the end of 2021, it just made me, for some reason, want to get back into the wrestling. It made me feel as though I was back home again. It made me feel like I was, you know, not far away from her, because all those years of having so many wrestling figures in my room, it brought me to that home-like feel again. And I said, you know, I want to get back into this. I had a passion for it for a long time. And I just really wanted to be able to do something that was able to keep me in a better state of mind at that time, and also, you know, allow me a better outlet. You know, a lot of people, unfortunately, don't choose the best outlet when things like this happen in their life, and all within reason. You know, completely, I understand, 100%. It's a very tough thing. Everybody deals with it much differently, and more differently than the next. So, with that being said, I started collecting just about January of 2022. So from January 2022 until now, we have accumulated almost 400 wrestling figures, which is definitely a good start to what we once had. And very, very proud of that, and excited to share my room tour with you guys, which will be coming up, of course, you know, at the new year again. I know we're quite some time away, but always something to look forward to. But today, we're going to talk about Matt's Wrestling Collectibles and how we all got started with this. So, to start off everything, and now getting past this intro of myself and collecting and being into wrestling and how it all started, to kind of give you guys a start of the actual business itself and where that began. It was about 2006 or 7. I used to bring wrestling figures with me to school, and there were people that I would trade with. There was people that I would sell them to. Of course, at that time, you know, funny enough, I would probably be selling these figures for less than what they sold for in the store. But as a kid, you know, you're not thinking of the market aspect. It's like, hey, my mom bought me this figure that was $12 and I sold it for $5, but you know, I made $5 because I didn't pay for it. And it's such a terrible thing. Shout out to my mother, because she I drove her crazy, and I literally drove that car crazy, having her take me all over the world to try to find a wrestling figure that I was in the search for. You know, I live in Rhode Island, and close by we have Massachusetts and Connecticut that are bordering us, and right here. So I would have days where we would spend a whole day looking for that one figure. I mention it actually often, the Tommy Dreamer ECW figure that they came out with, and the Sandman ECW figure that they came out with originally, the first two that were under that ECW branded line from Jax. God, I can't even remember how many hours I tied my mother up with driving around and trying to find a place that I could find these figures at. So, hey guys, I gotta take a sip of this here. If you guys haven't already, make sure you get a snack, grab a drink. We might be here for a little while. And that might be my friend today, because I'm already running out of it. I'm feeling it, but we're gonna get through this, right? So, to keep going with this, I used to bring the figures to school and sell them at school. Eventually, I got caught doing that. Wasn't allowed to do that anymore. So I was like, all right. I guess that's kind of where we're at. Fast forward a little bit. It's about 2008 now. 2007, 2008. A good friend of mine, my buddy Gary, his father used to have a flea market stand, and he used to sell his figures at the flea market with his dad. So We started at the West Warwick Flea Market over here in Rhode Island, and it was his father's booth. I had a very small area, had my figures out on it, was able to be there during the weekend and enjoyed it a lot, and I constantly was there. You know, I was always there. I spent my weekends there, spent my weeks in school. It was a drive that I had at that time to want to feel like I was in business for myself. And I had so many figures at the time that it was just, you know, it was easy to pick some out and say, okay, I got so many of this guy, so many of this guy. What can I get rid of? What can I, kind of downsize on? So, needless to say, a lot of figures being sold, and I was doing okay. I was actually doing all right. You know, for the limited space that I had, I was doing pretty decent. And we continued to work and work together, and things were working out really well. My buddy Gary kind of started to not really want to be there as much, and so I found myself sometimes there without him. It would be just me and his dad, which was fine. Me and his dad always got along, still get along to this day. And shout out to both Gary and his father, Gary Senior, Gary Junior. Both of them great guys, always helped me out big with the flea market, and really teaching me a lot in the flea market itself and in business as a whole. So we were doing that for quite some time, and like I said, Gary himself was kind of starting to not want to be there as much, so it was just me and his dad. One weekend, guy comes up to me. I don't know him. I've seen him in the flea market. He's got a big stand. He sells DVDs, lamps, household goods. I mean, anything you could think of, anything under the sun. So many items though. Anything, just a variety. And he comes up to me, and we start talking, and started a little conversation. And sure enough, as we're getting into this, he's like, hey, I noticed that you're doing this every weekend, and so on and so forth. He's like, is Gary your dad? And I was like, oh no. I'm like, it's my friend. And he was like, oh yeah, no, I know, because like his son, he thought that I could have been his brother or whatever. But he was like, well, he's like, I don't know if you'd like to, but maybe we can arrange something, and you could have a larger stand if you have more, you have more stuff to sell. I'm like, of course, I've got a ton of stuff that I can't even put out there because I don't have enough room. So, long story short, guy's name was Kent, and me and Kent just developed a bond and a friendship that was kind of like an uncle that I never had. And he was a great guy, and always was helping me out along the way. But he started me off with more than I could ever ask for. He says to me, Matt, if you help me sell at my stand, I will give you a booth and a stand right from mine, connected, give you a ton of space. I said, okay. Now I'm thinking I'm going to get a table, like a whole table to myself. I come in, I have 3 whole tables to myself. Now we're talking, 6-8 foot folding tables. So I'm like, wow, I went from, having a desk to having 3, like I said, 6-8 foot folding tables. I mean, this was a lot of space for me. I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I can't wait. So I started helping him. We worked together for quite some time, probably the better part of almost a year. And then we got word that our flea market was going to be moving. So the flea market decided, I guess we're going to go from West Warwick up to Cumberland. And for anybody who's not, local to the area, West Warwick and Cumberland has probably about a 30-minute, gap between each other. So 35 minutes, I guess, depending on, what you hit for traffic. And so at that time, it was kind of a little bit of like, what am I going to do? How is this going to work out? Well, Kent, being the help that he's always been to me all the way through this, from day one till day end, he literally said, Matt, you've helped me. I'm going to continue to help you. I'll pick you up. I'll bring you. I'll drop you off at home. I'll give you the ride both ways. You help me. I couldn't do this without you, and you need to be able to have a spot to do it as well. So let's do it together. I said, you know what? Absolutely. Let's do it. So we started a new booth, a new spot at this new flea market in Cumberland, which they branded the Big Flea. And it was located underneath the INNTHE Mills, like I said, in Cumberland, Rhode Island. And I had just about as big of a spot, if not maybe even a little bit more space than I already had. And it was amazing when we finally got there, because also let's not forget there was almost a year gap between the West Warwick flea market shutting down and the Cumberland flea market opening, because they had to do so many renovations. So that was a tough time. Selling online wasn't what it is today. It certainly was nothing of the Facebook marketplace, or we had Craigslist, of course, but that was kind of hit or miss. And so I continued to roll with my Matt's Wrestling Collectibles page. At the time, groups on Facebook weren't really a thing yet. I don't think that was quite what people were doing. They were just pages. So I had my page. I could post all my items for sale on it, and if somebody wanted to purchase from me, they would have had to have been local, or I would have had to ship it directly. However, we would have figured it out. But at that time, I didn't have PayPal. There wasn't Cash App. There wasn't Zelle, Venmo, all this stuff. They had, like I said, they had PayPal. I just didn't have one. But all those other payment methods, they weren't even a thing. So for me, I had a lot of buyer trust, and for lack of a better term, I guess, I had people that were putting their faith in me, sending me money up front for me to send them their items. And as time went on, the truth is in the product, and I've always had a great repertoire with everybody and a great reputation with everybody of always with the buying and selling, whether I'm on the purchasing side of it or the selling side of it. It doesn't matter. I've always had a good reputation with all of my customers and all of the people that I purchase from. So that always went very well. And I stuck out with that for roughly about, like I said, maybe 8-9 months, just doing things online. It wasn't really what I wanted it to be, but what it was allowing me to do was, in those 8 or 9 months, I was building up inventory. There was a lot of figures that I was purchasing, and I was like, all right, well, I know this is going to be one of those figures that everybody's going to want, so I'll buy 2. Or if I really thought it was going to be good, maybe buy 3. Like, for example, Elite Series 9, or I think it might have been Elite Series, I think it was Elite Series 9, Zack Ryder. It was his first Elite figure, and everybody was going crazy over it. I wound up buying 4 of those figures, and regrettably today, I've sold every single one of them. I kept one for myself for a very long time, sold the other 3, pretty quickly once that was opened and the stand and everything was running. But regrettably, they're all gone. But that's one of those figures. I purchased 3 extras at the time, knowing that we were going to be opening, and these figures would gain popularity and gain some value as time went on. So with that, I continued to, just like I said, push forward, build inventory, and then we finally opened. It was around, I believe, October or November of, I think it was either 2009 or it might have been 2010. I know it was close to the winter time. And when I say, guys, when I say I couldn't even keep up, the amount of business that this place was doing between general foot traffic, actual customers of my own and Kent's, it was incredible. I mean, the first 2 days that I worked there, mind you, we are open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. This is an indoor flea market. And 9 to 5 is, regular hours for most people with a 40-hour-a-week job. Or 8 to 4, whatever you're doing. And we were open 2 days, Saturday and Sunday. That's it. And Thursday we did have vendor day. And yes, I always told my customers, hey, if you need to see me on a Thursday, if it works out better for you, give me a call. Meet you down there. We'll do, whatever we need to do. But Saturday and Sunday, the only days we're open, 9 to 5. And in the first weekend that we were open, I did a little over $1,200 in 2 days. Basically $600 a day. I thought that I was on the rocket ship strapped to the money moon. So much money it ain't even funny. Shout out to Cameron Grimes. But as time went on, as time progressed from that initial first opening weekend, business slowly declined. And as time went on, we figured out that, hey, this is where we're going to be at every week. This is probably what we're going to accomplish on a weekly basis. So we had $600 a day weekends $1,200 total plus weekends, Saturday and Sunday, go from just that to more so like 5, 4, sometimes 3. And as time went on, I had most of my days at the flea market were probably doing anywhere between $100 and $200 roughly. So as that continued to progress, I said, well, maybe it's time to downsize again. Because in the midst of this, doing so well, I decided, let me get my own booth. So instead of working with Kent and just paying him towards his rent, I said, let me get my own booth. One opened up right on the back side of his. I started working out of my own. We were able to, be right next to each other so I could still help him. And it was just a lot more than I had anticipated, especially with the decline in business as time went on. Of course, as I've said to you guys before, remember, this is around 2009, 2010, and this went all the way from 2009-10 to about 14 that we were in this. So when I say we were booming $1,200 a weekend, that was probably the end of 2009 through 2010. 2011 and 12, it was probably more about maybe $300 a day, roughly $600 a weekend. And as time continued to go on and we get to the 2013-14 mark, now we're at that $100 to $200 a day. So getting my own booth in the middle of all of that was probably less than the best choice, but it taught me a lot along that road. And I always had such a love for it to where I wanted to have my booth again, but towards the end of it, I worked with Kent until the very end, and we did our thing, day in, day out, searching for items, selling them at the flea market. And I made a lot of good friends along the way, a lot of good customers along the way. And, I appreciate all those people that supported me all those years, because I can't lie, and most people already knew this. In my flea market stand, most of the figures I had were consistently over retail. Granted, they were always figures that people were very much looking for. So to give it the best, possible scenario I can here, let's just say Ringside had a figure that was $40 and it was $20 retail. I was buying them at retail for $20. I was selling them for $30 to $35. If Ringside had that figure for, $40, well, you would have to spend X amount of money to get free shipping. You would have to pay shipping if you didn't spend X amount of money. So no matter how you looked at it, you were going to spend more. And a lot of times, people always had, I think, a little bit more of a good feeling to know that it came from somebody who was local. And, I always say that to anybody who's watching this, support local business. And I'm not saying that for myself. I'm saying that for everybody who's around you. It's something everybody should do. Something everybody should always look into. And even if those local businesses are a little bit more money, you should always try your hardest to be there and help them out, because when they're gone, the people that work with you are no longer working. That's the problem. So shout out to all the small businesses, and I hope everybody is thriving if you have a small business and you're watching this video. So to keep moving forward, we had a very good run with the flea market. It was almost 10 whole years. It was basically 2008 to 2018. And from 2014-15 to about 18, I was only part-time in the flea market. I had other things going on. I had gotten my CDL. I drive tractor trailer full time. So, for anybody who's ever curious about what my day-to-day life is, it's not too exciting. It's just, we take something from somewhere, we bring it somewhere else. I pick it up, I put it down. It's kind of how it goes. But, the West Warwick Flea Market was a great place to start. The Cumberland Flea Market was a great place to end. And it never really ended, because Matt, myself, and all the people around me, and in Matt's Wrestling Collectibles, I should say, not Matt, but Matt's Wrestling Collectibles. And been talking too much, guys. I'm going on too far now. I'm starting to get word drunk over here. So, and there's nothing in the cup. This is pure soda here. There is nothing good in there. I can promise you that. But to say, you know, with everybody at Matt's Wrestling Collectibles, everybody that supported Matt's Wrestling Collectibles, because, you know, I had a couple of people that helped me along the way, a few people that ran the booth for me at times, like my friend Gary, and even Ken helped me a couple of times and ran the booth for me. And you know, I always appreciated everybody who helped me out along the way, and the days of the flea market were great. But, you know, you have to get on to that next level and that next part and that next chapter, which is where the, you know, where the truck driving really came into place. I'm not going to bore you guys with that, but that's, you know what, I've been doing now for basically a decade. So we fast forward from 2018 now to the end of 2021 and the start of 2022. And in 2021, December of 2021, as I said, my grandmother passed away. And that is when I decided that this is something that, you know, I really wanted to do again to help get me out of that true depression. And, you know, a lot of people can relate to this and some can't. My grandmother was there for me like nobody else. And to refrain from getting emotional on you guys, I will just say it like this. She helped me with many things in life. She was my rock. She was everything that she could possibly be as a grandmother, and then some. She is the driving force behind the rebirth of Matt's Wrestling Collectibles. And I feel as though with it running forever and staying alive, and this page continuing to grow, and this YouTube continuing to grow, and for the support that comes with it, I know that she will always be by my side throughout all of these endeavors. Let's fast forward a little bit further into what's going on today. So, as you guys may know, at one point, MATTIEG401, that's what I went by. I was on YouTube for quite some time. MATTIEG401, 800 plus subscribers. All thanks to some of you who are watching now, and, you know, some of you who, unfortunately, might still be stuck on that channel. So, that was, how do I say, that was the start of getting, you know, just video footage out there. I look back on that channel, I look back on what once was, and I say, wow, some of these videos are great, and some of them make me question if I was thinking clearly when I was posting them. My Little Wayne rant is, yeah, that's for a whole other day. But right, as I said, you know, a different time back then. Gosh, I don't even know. I had to have been maybe you know, 13 or 14 years old, if that. I might have even been younger, a little bit younger, a little bit older at the most. But from, you know, the YouTube then to now, I'm so grateful for these 300 subscribers, and I'm so grateful for you guys and your support. We fast forward a little bit now to the current group page, and I also do have a regular Facebook page for Matt's Wrestling Collectibles. I don't use it that much. I do post some of my items for sale on there. However, we do not sell through Facebook Marketplace anymore. If you guys want to check me out, you can get to me on Macari at MWC, that's Matt's Wrestling Collectibles, MWC 2008. So one more time, that is MWC 2008. Get me on Macari. I do have new listings and new items all the time, always being posted. And as always, you guys are welcome to check me out on there. But to go into the Facebook page and the group page, like I said, at one point on Facebook, I had over 6,000 people on just my page. We now have a little over 2,000 people on our group page. And some of you are probably saying, well, Matt, I've been following the group page. Every 50 members, you do a giveaway. And you were just recently at 500, so how are we now at over 2,000? And I have to give a big shout out to my buddy Sean, who actually was very deeply invested into the wrestling community. He is still in the community, but not collecting anymore. He had a page on Facebook which was called Wrestling Figure Planet, and it is now under the new name of Matt's Wrestling Collectibles / Wrestling Figure Planet. And I have taken over that group page. We have archived the old Matt's Wrestling Collectibles group page, so if you were on that, I'm sure you have seen it, but if you have not, and this is your first time hearing about it, you can get over to Facebook and just search that, Matt's Wrestling Collectibles, little dash in there, and then Wrestling Figure Planet, and you will be to the group page, a little over 2,000 people on there now. And again, thank you to Sean for having the faith and the believability in me to take over and be able to continue the great community and the awesome group page that this is. Sean and his team around him in that page have always been on top of keeping scammers off of there, which is something that we do very much and often, always looking out for the community and just, trying to keep everybody safe and able to buy figures, sell figures, trade figures, whatever it may be. There's no point in scamming. If you're out there and you're scamming people, for lack of a better word and lack of better terms, it's completely just a shame on you situation. I mean, a lot of these people, whether they are very young or, could be adult collectors, it's just sad. It is very much sad that people would want to take advantage of simply selling and trading these, wonderful things that keep us also happy and enjoying, a hobby. And it really puts a sour taste in some people's mouth. And I can definitely say, of course, my time in all of my business that I've done in the flea market, of course, I've run into some scammers. I don't need to put names out there. They are out there on my group page. You guys are always welcome to check out our scammer thread. It's updated very frequently and often. But with that, the Matt's Wrestling Collectibles, I guess, moniker and just everything that has come with it has always been a sense of pride within the community of the people that, we not only buy and sell from, but also try to protect, in the sense that we don't want people to get scammed out of money or out of something that they truly want to put into their collection. Like I said, it leaves a sour taste in people's mouth, and it's very just unsettling to want to continue in a hobby when you could lose, X amount of money, whether it be small amount, large amount, or anything in between. It's just not right. And as far as, like I said, when it comes to the scammers, we stay on top of that, and we keep everybody, as safe as we can within the Matt's Wrestling Collectibles community. So, with that, guys, I'm also going to put a couple of things out there. My buddy Kent, that had helped me get into this so much, has also recently passed away. He actually passed prior to my grandmother. And, I just want to say that this video is not only dedicated to my grandmother, but also to Kent, and just how much he helped me along the way in the flea market and the sense of business and, I guess, that entrepreneur type of mindset. Always kept me going, always brought me up when I was at my lowest of lows, not knowing if I was going to keep going with it, not knowing if I wanted to continue this, because it was just such a, tough business at that time. And especially with people being scalpers, there was a big difference between me buying 3 Zack Ryders and sitting on them for 9 months, and somebody who, went out and bought them at that moment and had them up for God only knows how much. I see some of these figures that are on eBay, and it is unbelievable what people will pay for something that is still being released in stores at this current moment. But to each their own. So that is kind of where I'd like to end this video. It's a big shout out to Kent and my grandmother, and a dedication to both of them for what they've done for me and where I'm at today. Matt's Wrestling Collectibles will continue to grow, and I'm sure that this is not a part 1, but it is also not an end to the story of Matt's Wrestling Collectibles. So we will leave this book open, and the next chapter will be written as time goes on. And maybe in another year, in another few years, maybe I'll have another Matt's Wrestling Collectibles history video for you guys. As far as it goes with all of the future endeavors for this, like I said, you can get me on here. YouTube can get me on, I'm sorry guys, I guess I'm getting into my feels a little bit here, but we're all human, and I just I can't say it enough. If you can, hug your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your loved ones, you know, your wife, your sisters, your brothers, your aunts, your uncles. Give them all a big hug, and just hug them a little bit tighter. You know, it's because you just never know when you might not be able to do so again. But let's get back to this and end this video. Guys, you can get me here, obviously, on YouTube. Like I said, if you haven't already, like that video, and please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. If you'd like to get me over on Facebook, like I said already, it is Matt's Wrestling Collectibles - Wrestling Figure Planet, and you can join the group there. We welcome all types of wrestling figure memorabilia, or all wrestling memorabilia as a whole. We also share wrestling, related news, video game stuff, TV segments, a little bit of everything. So anything is welcome on there. And again, also Macari, if you want to get me on there, if you want to follow me on there, new items all the time, daily, weekly, and you can get me there at MWC2008. Again, that is MWC2008. I'm going to put a link to everything in the comments, guys. And again, I appreciate everybody, all of your support, all of your continued support. If you could share this video, I'd greatly appreciate it. If you could share the channel, if you could share the group pages, I greatly appreciate it. And until next time, guys, until the next chapter of the Matt's Wrestling Collectibles history, I am Matt. This is Matt's Wrestling Collectibles. We're all here, and we're all going to have to say goodbye till next time.